Welcome to week 2 of the course. What I am going to cover this week is the current state of affairs for Mexican American students. And by this, I mean in week 1, I presented 2 videos and we talked about, stereotypes and we talked about privilege. And the purpose of me doing that is I want you to think about minority students, but I also want you to think about economically disadvantaged students. It's very important that we look at those 2 groups. Some Mexican American students are, of course, a minority and are also economically disadvantaged. But if you think about the privilege video, if a Hispanic student, a white student, or an African American student, or even an Asian student had socioeconomic status, they would have moved to the front of the line. So I think this is very important for you to think about that. In my own work, my own dissertation, I found that class trumps race. Regardless of your race, if you have access to money, you are going to have more opportunities to you. So in this course, I will be talking about the opportunity gap, and I will be talking about the learning gap, or what we call academic gap. So again, this week I'm going to present data, and I'm going to set the baseline for the rest of the course. In week 3, next week, what I'll do is we go back and explore 2 court cases that desegregated the school system back in the 1930s and the 1940s, and I'll talk more about that this week. As you can see, some of the pictures I'm showing you are of the community. I also include the border, and I think it's important if your home-based school is not UTEP, for you to understand how close we are to the border, and how these invisible borders, I think of the Rio Grande River as one of the borders that keeps Mexico from the U.S. And I also think about I-10 as another border, because I-10, if you look at the schools below the I-10 and above the I-10, you see class differences. For example, think about Bowie High School and think of Franklin High School. Both in El Paso, we have what we call, and actually in the whole United States, Title I schools. And these schools are schools that have more than a certain percentage of students. And if I remember correctly, it's about 70% of students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And in El Paso County, or El Paso MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, all schools are Title I schools with one exception, and that being Franklin High School. So just to put a bit of what we're going to talk about into perspective, I really like data, so I'm going to present a lot of data to this during this week. So this week you also have your first discussion board, which is the single story. I want you to respond to my question, and I want you to respond using a video. And you have to post this before Wednesday at 11:59 at night, which will give time for your group members to respond to the videos that they see and to your comments. And the response have to be in writing, and they have to be 2 responses. It could be to the same person twice, that you engage in a conversation with them, or it could be to somebody else. And in your response, you also have to cite the readings and reference the course material. If you have any questions, as usual, please email me or call me, and I hope you have a fabulous week. Thank you.